Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Health Made Simple Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bart, and probably need to buckle up. We're going to do a little deep dive today. Topic is going to be, what are you practicing for? What is your health practice? What is the point? What is the reason? What is the thing that you are practicing for? The reason I told you to buckle up because we're sitting here a day after there was an attempted assassination attempt on our former president, Donald Trump. And the way I'm going to tie this in is ask you, does that event, does the assassination attempt on President Trump, does it change anything? Ooh, big question. And this is where we're going to buckle up. For some of us, the answer is absolutely no, but there's a reasoning behind that. And the reasoning is because one, we know that that's a possibility and there's preparation for it, hence practice. And I know this sounds like an extreme analogy here, and how am I going to get this one all the way back to health? And I promise you I'm going to. So hang in there, hunker down. This is where, quite frankly, I know it's going to be a little bit of maybe a controversial topic, the way that I'm going to spin this a little bit, but just hang in there with me because these are real life things. Are events like this possible? Yes, they are. Are they rare? Yes, they are. Are rare boogly woogly diseases rare? That's why we call them rare. They rarely happen. Yet when they do happen to you, that becomes a big question. Are you prepared for them? So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to dive into this. What are you practicing for? What is your health practice? And we will tie in today's current events. So keep doing your thing. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Keep doing your thing. Keep sharing this out. Keep spreading love here. And if you have an opportunity, wherever you love listening to your podcast or watching this for that matter, please do your best to comment, to share some things with their, add some comments. Most importantly, leave a 5-star review. That would be awesome for us. Anytime you do that, it just gives us a little better opportunity to reach other people and share this information along. All right, so let's get back to it. What are you practicing for? What is your health practice, and what are you practicing for? And the truth is, we are always practicing for something. The actions that we take every single day are preparing us for the next event in our life. So I'll say that again. The actions that you take today, let's say you did nothing. If you're just hanging out on the couch watching TV or news all day long, it prepares you for how you are going to respond tomorrow. So we're going to use the current event, which is yesterday, which was the attempted assassination on Donald Trump. And first I'll say this, I don't care who you are, what your politics are. The idea of trying to kill someone else for their beliefs is just a big fat freaking no-no. That's it. It's a big fat freaking no-no. And so I'm glad that he's survived and healthy. And hopefully this gives us all a gut check. And hopefully, in my super optimistic ways, I'm thinking maybe this is the opportunity for us to all come together a little bit and just pump the brakes and for all of us to just take a pause and maybe think, man, we're getting a little crazy with this bad guy, good guy side. And maybe we just got to pause it a little bit, tone it down, and maybe we can use this event as an opportunity to come together just a little bit. Anyways, so what does this mean for a lot of people? For some people, it's a reality that things like this can happen. And for many, and I'm going to put myself in that category, many people are prepared. And sometimes those individuals are kind of poked fun of. It means they kind of get this category of they're preppers. And that has always been something that people kind of frown upon. You think of doom and gloom and stuff like that. But I consider myself a prepper. In what ways? I prepare my body to be able to do hard things. I prepare my mind to stay focused under chaos. I prepare my family, my events, my situation, my scenarios, my environment. I prepare, and therefore, when things happen, I already am in practice of what actions I will take next. I go farther. So I prepare now, as I've shared with many of you, that I got some of my own food. We got a couple of our own wells and whatnot. So I prepared my body. I can defend myself. I can prepare myself and travel if need be. I've prepared myself and I can defend our properties. And I know those things for many people sound completely abstract or completely out there or conspiracy theory-ish until we find out that being prepared is actually the best thing we can possibly do. So does it change the fact that someone tried to assassinate Donald Trump yesterday? For me, does it change anything? Absolutely no. I'm prepared for the fact that there's a high likelihood that In the future, we're going to see more chaos, which means that we're going to have to be self-servant. I mean, we're going to have to be prepared for ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally. That's the big one. Are we prepared emotionally? Most people are not, because they're not putting themselves in situations every single day to overcome the emotions of not having their favorite food. Yes. So here's the slide into the health part of this. So hear me out, and if you don't like this part of the conversation, I get it. Just keep listening, because this is as real as it gets when we talk about preparing ourselves to day, to being healthy, to everything else that happens to us in life. We are either preparing ourselves for it or are we not. So here's how the slide into health looks like this. Every single day, you are preparing yourself for whatever happens tomorrow. And the reality is that things can and most likely will happen. So I'm going to give you two scenarios. Both have completely different outcomes. And I could also tell you in the front of them, I could tell you exactly what those outcomes for the most part are going to be. Situation number one, I have a client who I've known for many, many years, and he exercises regularly. He has been exercising probably at least the last 2 decades. He is one of the kind of guys you would almost think is weirdo. He tracks his workouts. He does some CrossFit. He does the hard things, and he goes for runs, and he rides his bike, and he does all of those different things. And he has all these different events that he participates in. So he's been doing this for decades, always preparing his body, breaking it down and building up, breaking down, building up. And he eats super, super clean. He measures his body fat. He does all of these things, and these are all health practices. And the truth is, when you do really, really hard things, you're also preparing yourself for emotionally hard things in other parts of your life. So, anyways, this individual, he then has an accident. He has a car accident, and in the car accident, he gets banged up bad. Nearly lost his life. His hip is broken, his ribs are broken, his wrist is broken, his body's all banged up. And because he was prepared, he had practiced building his health on a daily basis, he was able to overcome those particular injuries very, very fast. And make no mistake, the reason he's out of a wheelchair, the reason that he's able to walk is because he practiced health. The same individual, if they're a couch potato, they're not practicing health, maybe for days, weeks, months, or even decades, like this individual, there's a good chance that they are not able to overcome that situation. So, is being prepared for anything and everything in life, the rare situations, the really, really unfortunate situations, can we prepare ourselves to do that? Yes. Situation number two. This is not a good example, but I want to share it with you anyways, because this is real life stuff. I get a call from one of my clients, one of my concierge clients, and he says, "Hey, listen, a really good employee of mine, a really good friend of mine just got a diagnosis and it's not looking good. Is there anything you can do? I know there's something you can do and help him with." I said, "Well, I'll gladly do that. Tell me a little bit about your friend first." "And what do you mean? What do you need to know?" And he started telling me more about the diagnosis and the disease that he had. And it was ugly, no doubt about it. I'm gonna kind of reserve some of that information just so individuals that might be associated don't think I'm necessarily talking about them. But nonetheless, and they wouldn't care that I am anyways. But anyways, so started asking information about the individual. And then I said, what about his lifestyle? Does he practice health? Does he practice discipline when it comes to food? Does he practice discipline when it comes to alcohol? Does he practice discipline when it comes to going to bed early and getting up early every single day? Does he fight the tough fight that makes it inconvenient and uncomfortable and oftentimes unfamiliar on a daily basis? Is he doing those things? He said, no, absolutely not. He's overweight and blah, 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 blah. And that's why he's where he's at. Unfortunately, then I know, although I am willing to help them in so many capacities, whether I'm pointing a finger and say, hey, this is the direction you need to go, I know that healing is a practice. Health is a practice. Our bodies have the capacity and capability. Yet the truth is, if you've never played baseball before and I put you at shortstop in Yankee Stadium and I hit a routine ground ball to you, a routine ground ball, there's a very good chance that you're going to make an error because you don't practice baseball. When it comes to health, if you do not practice health, even a fundamental routine thing that you should be able to overcome, you will not. And why is that a problem? Because then you have to rely on drugs, surgery, medications. And yes, sometimes they work to your benefit in the short term or maybe long term, but the majority of the time they're band-aids. And the majority of the time they're setting you up where you're going to have to do more work down the road. Anyways, this individual who had this really, really tough diagnosis as due to a long history of poor lifestyle does a consultation with me. He and his wife sit down with me and we talk about all the things that I'm going to suggest that they literally decide and choose right here, right now to get uncomfortable, recognize that their life is on the line. In the consultation, I would say that I didn't really think that they could do it. I don't think that they disagreed with the information, but I don't think that they thought that they could do it. And I'm not talking about hard things, folks. I'm talking about getting back to eating right, moving right, and thinking right. The easier route, the one that they practiced all of their lives, was when something wasn't good, was to show up in the doctor's office and get a Band-Aid. And then what happens when the rubber hits the road, right? The you know what hits the fan, and you have issues, that's what you have to lean on. And this individual chose, that was our first and last conversation. This conversation came up with my concierge client just recently. This is about 11 months, I guess about 11 months later. And I said, how is X, Y, and Z? He said, no, he passed away 3 months ago. And that is because he just went right back to doing exactly what he's doing. He didn't have a health practice. He didn't have anything to lean on. So what is my point here of sharing this? And a big point here. Listen, we've got to we have to give ourselves some grace. We have to give ourselves permission to get a little bit uncomfortable, to be a little bit inconvenienced, and no doubt travel down some unfamiliar roads to prepare ourselves for what there's a very high likely that a rare situation is going to take place. I know that sounds like weird words in the same sentence. There's a high likelihood that a rare situation is going to take place. What does that mean? Someone, yourself, you may end up with a diagnosis like cancer. You might get diagnosed with some other boogly woogly disease, unfamiliar, unknown territory. Can it just happen? Sometimes it just does. But how you practice in life is going to be very indicative of how you're going to manage that in the time. So when these things that seem completely out of the blue, but they're really not, we know the longer we're on this earth, the more likelihood that something's going to show up with our health. We're going to have some type of diagnosis. But how we practice on a daily basis is going to dictate more often than not how we're going to handle and what the outcome is going to look like on the other side of that. And again, what do I mean by practice? I mean literally making decisions today about the food that you put into your body, about the sleep that you're going to get tonight, about letting go of things that don't serve you, the fears, the worries, the concerns, the anger, the hatred, all of those emotions that just literally downregulate human function. They downregulate ourselves, and they give us emotions and then eventually actions that we take that do not serve us or the rest of mankind. But if you are prepared when things happen, you get an opportunity to sit. Maybe it stirs up some emotions. Maybe it puts you in panic for a moment, but you get to sit back and then go, okay, dust is settled. I'm a healthy individual. I have a healthy practice in my life. I've been practicing health for umpteen years. And now I have to climb this battle. I have to climb this ladder. I have to overcome this battle. And if you have that practice in your life, you're going to be able to do that. If you are not practicing health, it just makes it tough. And then the flip side of that, listen, if you're listening to this, my guess is that you are practicing health. And then what I would tell you is this: raise the bar, level up. If you find your emotions get the best of you, focus on your mindset. If you find that, man, you're a little out of shape, like work on your cardio. If you find that you're a little bit weak, like you can't do 20 push-ups in a row if you're a girl and 40 if you're a guy, then get stronger, period. And I know those are real numbers right there. Girls, you should be able to do 20 push-ups. Guys, about 40 in a row. That's the top percentage. Yeah, that's the top 5, 10%. That's where the target should be. So if you're a little bit weak, let's get a little bit stronger. If you're a little bit off mentally, put yourself in scenarios, recognize the patterns and the triggers, and work on that. There's so many good things out there with mindset. It's one of my favorite things to study because when I'm studying them, I just get better, which is the fun part. nutrition wise, you know, you can always eat cleaner. Every single one of us could eat a little cleaner. Where the power is, and the power you're going to need later when that rare thing happens, that rare situation happens, is the power to pause on the instant gratification and the instant pleasure. So it could be today, which I'm going to encourage you when you're listening to this. Later, when you go to eat, put down the thing that isn't from God's garden. If it's not that whole food that serves you, that doesn't make your cells better, that doesn't enrich your mind and your body, put it down. And the power in that decision is the power you're going to need later in life, later in your career, later somewhere down the road, today, tomorrow. Maybe there's an accident, maybe there's a bugly wiggly disease, maybe you need to be supportive of someone else, but you're going to need to flex that particular power that pushes off the instant gratitude, the instant gratification, the instant pleasure, and push that sucker down the road. And to do that, you're gonna have to practice that power. You're gonna have to practice that power on a daily basis. So that's a lot. Do the real things that happen in life. How are they going to affect you as an individual? That all comes down to how well you are prepared. Do I think that prepping in general is important for all of us? And I think that the answer is absolutely right across the board. I think if we think about traditional prepping, I think it's absolutely one of the more important things right now. I think that being capable as a physical human being to defend yourself, absolutely, I think it's important for all men and women. Do I think the ability to be calm in chaos, absolutely, to be a critical thinker, absolutely is important, to not get sucked up in the emotions, especially in the time and frame that we are with things like social media, who can suck our energy and our thought process in a direction that we don't even like. So be mindful of those things. Do I think that we should prepare ourselves to know how and what we'd respond to in these supposed no way scenarios of things like these, what do they call them? You know, these unrational type thinking, all of these events that taken place that people think that, oh, you're just a conspiracy thinker. All of these situations, is there a conspiracy thinking that there's a good chance at some point in your life you might get a diagnosis of cancer? That's not a conspiracy, folks. That's true. So if we're not preparing for it, how are we going to handle it? In the political landscape right now, are things potentially a little bit chaotic? Potentially. Think about the possible rare situations that could be taking place, and get your body and your mind prepared so you in those moments can stay calm. This is what we need more than ever right now in this state of chaos. We need more and more people doing some critical thinking, less emotional thinking, and more, hey, I got this. How come do I have this? Because I know, and I've been preparing myself for this type of chaos at any given time. And this is just one of many that I can handle just fine. Hopefully you have a little bit of that mindset. All right, as we wrap up here, continue to do your thing. Keep sharing it out. Keep spreading the love. I know today we deviated a little bit. We brought in some current events, and we talked a little bit potentially, I guess we flirted a little bit with the political realm, which is perfectly fine. It wasn't really about politics, about human behavior is really what it is. Remember, you are practicing for something today. The fact that you are listening to this, preparing your mind for something a little bit better, awesome. That is part of your practice. What you listen to after this, what type of social media you're going to listen to, the people you're listening to, the conspiracy theories, whatever it may be. But most importantly, the actions you take every day, that's your true practice. So take a look at those. Make sure they're aligning with who and what you want to be today and into the future. With that being said, keep sharing it out. Keep spreading love. Appreciate you. And I'll see you in the next podcast.